Hi John, today we're going to start the safety inspection on your Spider. Now if you're not John, you probably don't know what the heck is going on. So stay a while and listen while I explain this project to you. So a couple of months ago, a guy approached me at one of the local Fiat meets and said he had an old Spider that had been sitting around for almost 20 years and he wanted to get it running again. Now any car that's been sitting for that period of time is going to need almost everything done to it. So I told him he was better off just buying one that was already running. But this particular Spider has a cool story. So you see, his dad actually gave it to him as a graduation gift. So he doesn't just want any Spider, he wants this Spider. Now I don't normally work on other people's cars, but that story got me right in the feels. So I'm gonna get this car back on the road for you, John. So let's get to it. So let's give this little beauty a look over. Now there's obviously some spots that are gonna need some attention. Now normally stuff like this is a bad sign, but I do know that the car has been garage kept. So hopefully there's not going to be any structural rust damage. Now there are several places on these cars that are common for them to develop structural damage. So I'm going to be going over all those bits and pieces in this safety inspection. And John, you're definitely going to have to get new tires before you can actually drive this thing on the road. This one you can even hear it leaking. Now there are some kind of odd things going on with this car. If you take a look at the identification plate down here, you can see that it was built in January of '75. However, it has a 79 and up hood. Now, John's not really sure why that is, but he did say that his dad tinkered with this quite a bit. So let's take a look under this hood and see what's up. Now, the actual engine identification is way down here and we can't see it from up top. So we'll have to get a little creative to see if we can see what the actual engine number is. But just at first glance, I'm gonna say that this engine is not what came in the car. Heck, that could actually be a good thing. It's probably a 2-liter instead of the 1800 that came with the car. Now the first thing I noticed when I jacked up the car is that it looks like someone ran over a curb or something. The oil pan is all smashed in, and this can be really bad news because the oil pickup sits right in here. If the oil pickup got busted off, it could have starved the engine for oil. So that's one thing we're definitely gonna have to investigate. So right now the car is sitting on jack stands on the body, so the suspension components are all hanging down loose, so I can check them out. This jack is currently loose right now, and this jack stand is as well. What I'm gonna be checking while the car is sitting here in this state is how loose the suspension components are, and also I wanna check out the crossmember here. If you notice, the crossmember has the engine mounts, as well as the attachment points for the lower control arms. And areas that can develop problems on these cars is right in this area here on the crossmember can develop cracks. So I'm gonna have to scrape off all this junk and take a look. And also where it meets the body frame up here, which I wanna call your attention to right now actually. I'm going to start applying pressure with the jack on the crossmember right now. And as you can see, as I do that, the crossmember kind of moves from the body a little bit. Now this is on the passenger side of the car over here. It doesn't look like it's doing the same thing on the driver's side. Now hopefully the crossmember bolts up in here are just loose. Really at every oil change you should check and make sure that these are still tight. Because when these bolts get loose and everything starts flexing, that's when you actually start developing cracks and other issues like the bolts actually snapping off. And another thing I notice over here on the passenger side is there's a lot of alignment shims over here, and there's none over on the driver's side. That might indicate that there could be some other issues over here. So let's check for play in the tie rods. That actually feels pretty good. And check the ball joints. You hear a little bit of clunking from something. Might need to investigate that a little bit further. It does feel like there's a little bit of play in there. Not a whole lot, but just a little. And this is the driver's side. Do the same thing on the passenger side. Tie rods feel good. Doesn't really seem to be any play or anything in the ball joints over here. That's good. Now another area on these cars you have to check out closely is the shock towers. They have a tendency to rust out and you have to replace this whole thing. This one does seem to have some rust right here. And that doesn't really look too good. But I think we can just scrape this out and put a little patch in here. I don't think the whole shock tower needs to be replaced. But this hole will definitely need to be patched for it to be really safe. Other than that, it looks pretty good. Another thing you'll see sometimes on these cars is the shock tower is sagging inward. And that's due to this body rail up here kind of collapsing inward. And I don't really see any evidence of that on this side, so that's good. While we're over here on the driver's side, we can just give a visual inspection of some of the suspension components. You can see that the control arm bushings are pretty much shot, so it's going to need new bushings. The shock bushing is definitely all cracked and coming apart as well. It might be time for new shocks, but at a minimum, new shock bushings. The sway bar bushing's all blown out too. Now these aren't things we need to do immediately before we get the car running, but I am going to recommend also replacing the ball joints too, I think. Because if we take apart the control arms to do the bushings, we might as well do these too. Gotta clean some of the schmoo off of these crossmember bolts here, and then we can check them out as well. Well, these nuts seem a little strange. This rear one actually seems like it might be twisted off inside. It's not a good sign. Let me check the front. The front one is loose, but it feels like it's tightening. Yeah, that feels good. So that front crossmember stud nut combo, it's tightened up nicely. Let's get back on the rear one, see if I can loosen it. I should note that I have the jack underneath the crossmember supporting it right now as well. Yeah, if you can see here, it looks like that stud's completely loose in there. That's not good. I'll try to tighten it back up the best I can, but more than likely, we're gonna have to open up the frame rail and weld this guy back in. And of course, all that has to be done with the engine out. It's a little bit of a major surgery. Yeah, like right now, I can feel the stud just kind of slipping inside the frame rail there. So yeah, that's actually kind of a big safety issue that's gonna have to get corrected before you can really drive it on the road. And I thought the driver's side was gonna be fine. We still have to go look at the passenger side. The passenger side strut tower might actually be a little worse than the driver's side one. It's got a rusty hole in the same spot, and it looks kind of like it's migrating over onto the front side of it too. And we have a rusty hole on the back side as well. It looks like we might see a little deformation in the body rail up here too. Might be getting some shock tower sag on this side. That's probably why there's so many alignment shims down here. And of course we see the same issues with all the suspension bushings on the passenger side as we saw on the driver's side too. And we can already see, without even putting a wrench on it, that the rear stud for the crossmember is broken on the passenger side as well. I mean, I'm just wiggling it with my finger. That is not good. And funny enough, the front stud is loose as well. Wasn't very loose, but still, when you only have one bolt on either side holding your crossmember in, you better well darn make sure that they're tight. Looks like someone did a whoopsie when jacking up the car at some point. This isn't a jack point. The jack point is right here. That's not really anything to be concerned about though, it's probably fine. I'm gonna see if I can get all this schmoo off the crossmember here so I can take a better look at it. All the old oil and road grime really piles up on this thing. Now normally where these things crack at is right through here or through here. This looks like it's just a scratch to me. That's just a scratch in the paint. I don't see any cracking on the front side at least, so that's good. Come over and take a look at the driver's side as well. And this thing is just really nasty. But the good news is I don't see any cracking. So even though your crossmember bolts were loose and everything was flexing in there, it looks like the crossmember is in good shape. That's really good news. Now it's a little bit harder to see the backside, but let's see if we can get back there and take a look. The backside's got a bunch of goop too. So the backside of the crossmember on the passenger side looks like it's good too. And I don't see any cracking on the backside of the driver's side either. All right. Now the rear is a lot less complicated, but we still have to check out the suspension points back here. There's a lot of surface rust, but I'm not seeing anything that would worry me really. Where the control arms bolt on still look good. And up here as well. This is the passenger side. Let's go check out the driver's side. Yeah, everything's looking pretty good over here too. All right. Well, John, we do have some safety issues that we have to work out with, mainly concerning the crossmember bolts. It's really not a good idea to drive a car that has broken crossmember bolts like that. Now in the next installment, I'm going to be checking out the engine, see if the engine's okay. I'm kind of assuming that it's not okay because of that huge dent in the oil pan. But in the next episode, you can see me checking out the engine to see if it is any good or not. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time. Holy crap, look at this big ass spider. Sucker's huge. Come on, do something. Man, he don't even care. Oh, you want it? Nope. Ah. Nope, get out. Hey. Hey. Get out of here. Go. Hey. Ah. Ah, get out of here. Go, scoop. Yeah, get out of my path. Go catch some bugs. Woo!